Dun, 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 dun. Well, hello and welcome to the Unofficial Unreal Engine Podcast, where we talk about all things Unreal Engine and also pork juice. We're your hosts. My name is Alex Coulomb, and this is
Jacob, and we are back for part 2 of the Unreal Engine podcast with our special guest, David.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Liu, and you are seeing me holding up a glass of wine from Galactic Starcruiser, which is the wonderful cruise ship experience in the Star Wars universe that Alex and I might get to go and try. So I just had to talk a little bit about this beautiful glass, which is entirely spherical. So there's no way to rest this on the table unless you have the prerequisite little holder that it comes with. So this is one of the souvenir mugs and the awesome cocktails that they've served me on my faux birthday on the Star Cruiser. So just want to say it's pretty cool as a souvenir mug.
That was a fun fact we didn't even get to cover on the first part. Look at that. I'm so glad we did this. All right.
Part 2.
Well,
Hooray.
Look, guys, if you liked the first part, make sure you like, rate, subscribe, listen, comment, whatever it is. No. You're back. That's all that matters. And where we left off, where did we leave off, Alex?
the end of day one. We made it through like 30% of the whole Star Cruiser experience.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, right? And the last thing we spoke about, you had a note in 3 parts, and it was a story element. We're about to talk about what it was, that story element. So let's get into it.
So to clue everyone into the rough storyline so far, and Alex, keep me honest, right? So basically, we discovered that there are resistance sympathizers on board, and Lieutenant Croy is on board with the stormtroopers to sniff everyone out. And Gaia, the celebrity singer, Twilight singer, is also on board with her manager. So at this point, lots of things are happening. Different thread lines are overcrossing and overlapping. And so there was basically a droid that was also like a physical actual R2 droid, astromech droid that's moving around as well. And by the end of the evening, it had to be disabled, right? So because Lieutenant Croy comes in and is basically like, oh, we suspect that the droid is part of the resistance. So there's a huge emotional moment where Sammy, the resistance mechanic character, had to give up the droid as a resistance droid and had to put the droid in clamps, and basically to the bemoaning of the entire audience of the Star Cruiser at the point. So by the time we got to dinner, everyone's sort of like a little bit of a dour mood. It's like, oh no, the poor R2 droid, which everyone loved because it's an actual droid that we get to play with, is now depowered or unpowered. There you go. That's basically a poor droid. So if you're watching this podcast on YouTube right now, you get to see that picture of the droid that has been betrayed by Sammy, the mechanic, the resistance mechanic. So that's the context for when we receive the note. We actually see the note explains that, hey, everybody, don't you worry. This is just a ploy. We're looping you in. Sammy is actually still part of resistance. He's not actually given up on the R2 droid. This is all just a ploy to trick Lieutenant Croy. So that note was a nice sort of like, hey, just so you know, things are still on the resistance side of things. Don't worry. Things are according to plan. Did I get that mostly right, Alex?
Yeah, you got it.
So it's really cool. It's a nice moment for especially for the kids who were like, "Oh no, Sammy, how dare you give up?" Like, to Lieutenant Croy, but it was all part of the plan.
Sammy was definitely the kid favorite on our voyage. I saw so many kids swarming around Sammy.
From what we understood from the Imagineers we spoke with, right? Like basically, like different characters eventually they iterated it. Like some characters end up being more of the kid characters. So you had Sammy, who was the mechanic, who was also often with Chewie. So when you have a guy with Chewie, you're gonna have a crowd of kids follow you. That was just the way it was, right? On top of that, we had like Saja, aka the Jedi type characters, like Saja Tyser. He was also like a huge kid magnet.
Amazing.
So cool the way they sort of planned this out. But yeah, that was great.
All right.
So by the end of the evening, so we finished our dinners. We got the note that everything's actually okay. What happened after that, Alex?
I just remember everyone being real tired, but still staying up late. And some people went and played some sabak at the sabak
Wow.
table. And we definitely got a good bedtime story from our D309. Here's one of the shots from the bunk there, where we could see space outside the window. Were there actually any missions that night, David? I'm struggling to remember if there's anything we could do on our data pads.
No, I think by the time dinner was done, like a few of us had cocktails, and I think we were beat. Like honestly, I was tired, right? So I think our crew at least, we made a decision to sort of sleep a little bit earlier, and we were like, we're gonna, stay up a little bit later the next night. But I think by the end of the first night, we were just done. So I think, yeah.
We did get, so we were given so much great advice coming into this experience from Kathryn Yu and various people who we knew who worked on the very nice one we got was they say that the first shuttles to Batu leave at 8 a.m. the next morning. But we heard that there's also a bit of a secret shuttle, an early riser shuttle, so to speak, that leaves closer to 7:45 a.m. And we're like, we're going to be on that shuttle. So we did get up very, very early and went to have our delicious breakfast. Totally different from all the food the day before.
Yeah. So while dinner was a la carte, like they served you a meal, like this one's like buffet style, so you could pick your various breakfast options. So this is like lunch as well. Like lunch was also like a buffet style thing. You sort of picked from a wonderful spread of delicious food.
So was there any Mickey Mouse shaped breakfast items? That's important to me. No Mickey
Man,
Mouse?
they did a really good job like hiding away the Mickeys, but I'm sure they were there.
Yeah. This is like, and I'm sorry, this is an aside, but Disney World, my favorite thing is the Animal Kingdom buffet where they have Mickey shaped everything. I don't know why, but everything tastes a little better when it's Mickey Mouse shaped, and I can't explain why.
I thought everything tasted better when it was called bantha meat and chandrillin waffles and things like that.
Like, that is clearly just an egg waffle with sausage and egg, but because it's a chandrillion waffle, it was just 10 times more
It
delicious.
was 10. Yeah.
Just how it works.
And to give a little context to my intro today, I went to breakfast and I was like, pork juice? Like we're eating like the liquefied bodies of the little fluffy creatures from The Last Jedi? And it's like, no. Pog juice.
Wow.
Okay. Wow, this got dark.
All right. So
Yeah.
hey, I want to ask, how did it? We've talked a little bit about like, okay, dealing with claustrophobia or the lack thereof, right? What was it like to wake up in this situation? Did you have any interesting experiences just feeling, oh, wow, where am
So-
I?
I want to illustrate a scene that we were in. Basically, you have 5 full-grown adults in one bunk, well, in one cabin and one bathroom, right? So I think, and we were all like really respectful adults. Basically, what happened when we woke up was basically like I was an early riser because I was like, I want to use the bathroom before everyone else does because I feel bad. I don't want to hog the bathroom, right? So I thought I was the first to wake up, but no. Kevin woke up first, so he silently crept out a bit. So basically, imagine the scene. It was completely dark, and then you hear like someone's alarm go off. Oh, that's Kevin's alarm. And then Kevin's like skittering into the bathroom, and basically it was just like after that, just little like I think a cascade of us just sort of trying to use the bathroom before the other person. But I think Alex, like you slept in a little bit, right? Because I think
No, on D2 I slept in a little bit.
Gotcha. So it was not day one.
Rather, yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. So basically, like we
were
5
all
adults trying to take turns to use the bathroom.
Yeah, but it felt definitely the bathroom situation is you have to coordinate well. But I think we all woke up that next morning like it was friggin' Christmas, and we were excited to go on our adventure, our field trip.
So following what Alex said, like because we had the intel that we were going to get the earlier shuttle, because as you know, Batu's suns were extremely hot, aka Florida. We wanted to make sure that we were, on Batu for like the right amount of time. We don't want to be there too long. So we hurried to breakfast. We finished our breakfast and we skittered to the shuttle. And lo and behold, there was a shuttle waiting for us at 7:45. So we got to Batu pretty early. But let's talk a little bit about the ride, Alex.
The ride. I'm pulling up a now. There we go. So there's us on our shuttle.
Wait.
We had
So I see people on their phones. Like, or were you checking Instagram, or like, were there things to do?
Oh
on
no,
this?
no checking Instagram.
No, Instagram did not exist. So they did it the same way the airlocked doors pods sort of brought us from the terminal to Halcyon. The shuttle brought us to Batu, and this was like amazingly themed. So basically, it was just like a bus with no windows, but it had all these Star Wars trimmings, right? So there was
Wait,
a
so
whole like,
you were actually moving, like you were on an
oh,
actual bus here.
we were on a bus.
What's a
Wow.
bus? No,
I
don't
don't know.
that.
I mean, not bus.
Oh,
A
I
shuttle.
didn't realize that. I thought this was like contained within. So you were moving and you don't know where, or I guess we'll find out. All right.
So, I mean, they explained to us that basically the shuttle is operated by a third-party contractor from Batu, right? So it's not like a Chandrilan style fancy, because Chandrila is like meant to be like upper crust. The shuttle we're in was operated by some scoundrel type from Batu. So it was definitely they themed it correctly as well. So it was a bit more rundown. It's more like the Millennium Falcon style. Like it was more like, definitely not luxury, right? But it was a bus. It was a bus, no windows. They played the local music of Batu, which was like they had radio stations. It was all really well thought out.
Wow. I didn't realize that at all. I thought this was literally they had like an elevator that brought you back down to surface level, and they'll have some like closed off area that I didn't know. This is quite cool. Okay, so you're
Yeah,
in the
so
bus. It's early. You had your coffee, and oh, I see. All right.
So
Tell us about this.
Imagine exactly. So basically, like it was a jet bridge to the shuttle, and the shuttle had to bring us to the property in Disney World, Hollywood, Studios, where Galaxy's Edge is at, right? So they had like a whole proper terminal station in Galaxy's Edge for when we got off the bus as well. So it's like we got out, and now suddenly we're no longer in the Halcyon. We were actually walking through the halls of the terminal in Batu, aka Galaxy's Edge. So it was really cool. Like, as you know, I've been to Galaxy's Edge before. It's not definitely not my first time, but it's the first time for me coming down as a passenger from the Halcyon, because I was like, oh wow, it really felt like you were the Black Spire outpost on Batu, which is like the themed area from when you landed. So that in itself was quite an experience. So we got out, and suddenly we're in Star Wars land, aka Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and I just want to set up how incredibly intelligently they tied this into the actual experience. Because first, you think about the cruise ship experience. Anyone who's been on a cruise ship knows it's pretty common to dock at like an island or something at some part of that, and you go off the ship and you go do your thing and you buy your souvenirs and then you come back. So same kind of idea here in general. But then for anyone who's never been to Galaxy's Edge, there's 2 rides there, and those rides are totally cool to go on their own. There's different spaceships, there's different shops and things going on, and yet all of that becomes part of the story, because you are no longer just a tourist going to say hi and check out this experience that day. You are on missions, as David alluded to with like the note the day before. So Smuggler's Run and Rise of the Resistance and some of these shops, these are all very important missions for you to do, not just a fun ride for you to do as a day out. So again, this is not cruise ship, the relaxing ride where you just kind of relax. This is like the active, you got stuff to do, get out there and complete your mission kind of day. And I love that, the fact that like you needed to go on Smuggler's Run because you needed to get the coaxium. Yeah. And and David, why don't you set up a little bit about like how that all works and how that's all connected?
Yeah, so they did a really smart thing. I just want to iterate how important the DataPad app was for all of us, right? So basically, at this point, by the morning of day 2, the app knows exactly more or less which path you're on, right? So you have the characters with this Lenka Mock with the Resistance, or Wraith Cole with the Smugglers, like it was for me, or like Lieutenant Core. Like they'll be tasking you to go to Batu to do missions for them. And these missions incorporate the rides the 2 main rides that you're on. So going on the ride itself was a main mission, but doing things around the periphery of the ride itself was also a mission. So you had to talk to people around the ride. So there was one I went on, for instance, like I had to check into the cantina because the cantina people had basically a message to parlay to me, right? So I actually had to show up and talk to a cast member there and show them like something on my data app. I was like, oh, hey, I'm supposed to show you this. And then it quickly get into character because they would quickly notice that you're from the Halcyon, because we all had pins as well. So we had pins to identify ourselves as members of the passengers of the Halcyon, separate from like normal hoi polloi Disney World attendees, right? So they would get in a character and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Go to this place over here and scan this, and you'll be right on your way." And so it's just like VIP white glove experience in Disney World
Yeah.
itself and Galaxy's Edge, and we would check off like task lists. So like for me, it was like the smuggler and resistance track. So we had to like scan boxes. We had to like follow a little narrative adventure as well on Batu itself, where we had to deliver items, hack into antennas, transmit secret messages, all in service of the paths that we were on, which were for me the resistance and smuggler. And I know Alex had different things because he was working for Lieutenant Croy.
Yeah, that's right. So I need to go. It's so funny too, the opportunities you have to kind of work both sides and be a double agent. Be like,
Yeah.
well, I know Lieutenant Croy wants me to do this. I also kind of want to go tell the Saja or Lenka or something that Lieutenant Croy wants me to do this. And all the actors are prepared for like whichever kind of direction you're going to go with all that. Some of it happens in the app. Some of it is like, are you doing that thing Lieutenant Croy asked you to do? And the answer is, we'll get different responses. But then you also get to sometimes have those responses to people in person, which is always fun to see how they're going to react. Because yeah, they want to know like whose side are you really on? Because you kind of have a primary angle. I never quite felt that way as much as some of the other folks. Kind of felt like I had my Saja track and my Lieutenant Croy track pretty much equally right up until the end. Whether that was how the app was thinking of me or not, but it did make me realize that there were opportunities to like give information to both sides depending on how I wanted to do that.
Yeah, I want to commend and applaud the design of it, where you could do that, right? There was even a track where you could be a double agent, like Alex said, where you could be both on the Resistance and First Order, and you'd be like, "All right, this guy's probably a double agent, so we're going to give them a double agent ending." And the characters will sort of like play that up, right? So it's like, "Oh, we knew you were talking to Lieutenant Croy, but we knew you were working for Resistance the whole time," sort of thing.
Wow.
So
Wait, so
they had that possibility for you.
when you were in Disney World, so you got there early, right? Were there other people there when you got there initially?
So the hour that we were given is typically for people who lived on property. Like they opened up Disney World a
The
little bit
early
earlier.
hours, yeah.
So we got the early access hours being part of the Halcyon, so because we were in a hotel also on property, right? So basically we could do the rides at a time when they weren't busy.
Yeah.
So we had lightning passes, which meant that we could skip the line and go the VIP line one time for each of the main rides. So basically, like we were set, like like if we as long as we made a beeline for Smuggler's Run, which is Millennium Falcon ride, and also beeline to Rise of the Resistance, which is like the epic other ride, we would be able to sort of go through both within like the half hour.
Yeah. Now
However-
those you aren't allowed to spoil because those are still there, and I haven't been on them.
Oh, good point. Okay.
Okay, we will not say anything about that other than they're both extremely fun. One of them, you get to pilot the Millennium Falcon.
That one I knew. Yeah.
And as you know, they do this amazing thing. Millennium Falcon only has one cockpit. But how is it that when you go down to halls, you only see one cockpit, but yet there's lines and lines of people? How do they do that magic? I encourage you to explore that and try to figure out how they figure that out, because it took me quite a while. It's quite
Interesting.
magical. Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
clever.
So okay, did it break immersion at all when you land in Disney World, or were you just like, oh my god, I'm glad we got to go here, like this is what I wanted to do while I was like what was the feeling of dropping down back in Florida? But I mean we've talked about it a little bit, but like seeing Disney World guests and like buying a churro is a little different than what you were experiencing.
I felt completely immersed the entire time I was there because it all felt Star Warsy. Even the regular people who were just there for the day, so many of them were in like Star Wars garb that it all felt correct. The problem came when I passed a road and the road led up to the rest of Disney World and I saw
Yeah.
big friggin' Buzz Lightyear. And like it's like, okay, that feels weird and wrong. But then it also got me in like a Spider-Verse kind of mode of like, well, Buzz Lightyear has this relationship with Zurg that's a little bit like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader Wars, but ultimately, like, it felt icky to venture out of the specific area that was specifically Star Wars.
Right, because you have the rest of Hollywood
basically, like,
Studios that's connected, right?
Right, that's right.
you have the ability basically to inject cognitive dissonance to yourself if you wanted to push that envelope. But because the Imagineers did a good enough job of making sure that the entire Star Wars area mainly keeps the Star Wars area, as long as you sort of kept within the confines of Galaxy's Edge, you should be fine.
And
Yeah.
No one's going to stop you if you want to get a churro from Tower of Terror or nearby.
Yeah, and by the way, the folks who are working at Galaxy's Edge, they know, because you've got a little Halcyon pin, that you are part of this group, and they will play along with, if you want to stay in character, if you want to talk about the mission you're there on, like, they know enough about that to, like, keep you engaged and keep you immersed in that world for 95% of the time you're at that too. By the way, I just want to say how cool it is when you're doing some of the hacking missions and things like that to make like a giant friggin' boiler or a spaceship or something make a sound that like ignited this little kid part that was so excited to like press a button on my app, solve a little puzzle, and make Big Machine go whoom. And
it was so good.
Wait,
So
tell me more about that. Yeah, what are you talking about here?
So some of the little missions.
So the missions.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Go ahead. No, you do it.
So this got a little bit mixed up with things that the public can do on Batu as well. Some of this is actually part of our specific mission. Some of it is just other things that are in your app that are available because you earn credits, and like you can't really do anything with credits on the Halcyon. I do wish there was something you could do with credits. Briefly, I did a South by Southwest experience in 2019. Exchange those credits for like a whiskey flask and cowboy boots and a hat.
Merch.
And it was a nice
So
way
good.
to encourage that level of participation. But here, at least what you got to do in lieu of actually using the credits was do things like hack into a control panel. And I'll give you one example. There's one droid or a person who's like, you know what? I sleep above this restaurant and they've got this big boiler down there and it's always so loud, and I'll help you out with your mission if you can just shut that thing down so I can get some peace and quiet. So you go and you find like the right control panel and the right circuit board and you hack into it, and then you solve the little puzzle, very much like the puzzles in the PlayStation Spider-Man game that you have to do with like Doc Ock's lab. So you're like connecting little circuits and making numbers add up, and you solve those, and then like the whole thing shuts down and it's like dead quiet, and it's like, I did that, and it feels really cool.
So do normal Disney guests get access to this, or is this just for this experience?
Some of them might.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Everyone can download the Disney Play app, and everyone, once they're in Galaxy's Edge, they can open up the Datapad app, which is a sub app within the Disney Play app. So those of us who are on the Halcyon, we get access to a forked version of the app where we can activate all the Halcyon things. But you could, if you were just a Disney World member, a typical Disney World guest, you could also just use the Datapad app to sort of hack into stuff into the Galaxy's Edge and Batu, do mini missions. It's really well thought out. Like, there's a lot happening on that app if you choose to participate in that. Now, the problem came when the forked version of the Datapad app for the Halcyon meets the everyday version of the Datapad app on Batu, because suddenly you have like a new currency. You had side missions that you could only do on Batu, which would be confusing if you were just a Halcyon member, right? Because these are intended for guests who are just in Disney World for a day. So, I know many of us in our party got confused when we were like, oh, we're getting currency. Now we're getting like skins for the app. Now we're doing all these other missions. Like, are these related to the pathways that we had on the Halcyon? Or is it something else? And it wasn't clear at the point, like, which were critical to our enjoyment on the Halcyon, or which was just like, Galaxy's Edge specific quests, right?
How long did you have in total in Galaxy's Edge?
I think you're allowed to stay there as long as 4 p.m. They did say get back by 4 p.m.
Wow.
But I was pretty much done with all my missions by 10 a.m. So
10 a.m.
It took a couple hours.
So, but I guess if you wanted, you could have gone into Hollywood Studios and
you could have
around all day.
We could have,
but
But here's the thing: you paid good money for the cruise ship experience, and I think most, at least for me, like it was so freaking hot, right? Like it's Florida in the deep of summer that I was ready to get back to the ship to get AC. But before we go there, like a few of us actually booked a lightsaber building experience.
Oh,
Right.
before we go to the lightsaber experience, David, real quick, because I just found these slides. Let's talk really briefly about the way they diegetically dealt with the fact that Rise of the Resistance breaks down all the time.
Yes, sir. So with the first ride we wanted to do before Smuggler's Run was Rise of Resistance, which we don't want to spoil it for Jacob, so we don't want to go to too much detail, but it's one of the best rides, period, that I've ever been on. So there are lots of moving pieces. That's all, I think all I'll say. And so it's infamous for breaking down. So to allow for that, the data pad actually tells you when the ride's broken down. Alex, do you want to explain
That's
what it
brilliant.
says?
Right, because David did such a good job of like, because he's the only one of us who'd been to Galaxy's Edge before, and we arrive on Batu, and David's like, "This way to Rise of the Resistance." And we're like, "Okay, we're gonna be first in line," and we're like just about to get there, and we all get our little announcement on the data pad that's like, "Oh, suspected resistance activity on the outskirts of Blackspire Outpost have been halted. We will notify passengers when activity resumes in this area." So they shut down the ride under the auspices of like they need to find if there's any resistance members there, when really, of course, it's just like the ride's broken down and they have to fix something.
That's such a brilliant way to handle your, your your something failing like that. I mean, to turn it into a narrative moment, I think that's
It's
brilliant.
great.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, just so you know, there's resistance activity, so don't go there yet. We will let you know.
Like
when
all of a
it's
sudden you're
okay.
not that upset, right? You're like
It's a
We
story
were
moment.
tickled by that. And then we went and we scanned a bunch of crates because there's crates where you're looking for certain things and you're doing. The only thing I'm going to say about Rise of the Resistance is I just kept thinking that it was over, and I kept thinking like that was satisfying, that was good. And every time I thought it was over, it kept having like one more thing, and that next thing was like even better, even better, even better. And it was, I think, the best theme park ride I've ever been on in my life.
Yeah,
wow.
it's such hype. For all your listeners right here, and especially for Jacob, dude. It's such a good ride. I won't say any more, but
Yeah.
literally everything Alex said.
I'll give a pro tip though for anyone who's at Galaxy's Edge. Smuggler's Run. So as David mentioned, we get a lightning pass to be able to do Smuggler's Run and Rise to the Resistance once, which is great because we get to go through it and not wait for an hour and a half in line. You can't do this for Rise of the Resistance, but in Smuggler's Run there is a singles only line, and that is even faster than the lightning line.
Wow.
So I actually was able to do Smuggler's Run 3 times pretty much in rapid succession by going through the singles only line. And that meant that I was able to pilot every aspect of the Millennium Falcon. That was a coincidence, the fact that I actually got placed in a different part of the ship each time. But, just a
Or
pro
was
tip
it?
that is the fastest way. What? Sorry?
I said, or was it a coincidence?
I don't think so. I mean, I was
I think
literally
this-
I was in a different Millennium Falcon each time, and the person who was like putting me in a spot, it was a different person each time. So total coincidence.
Yeah, so to illustrate that, Alex lucked out. I did not. I was, I went there 3 times as well. The first time, because I've done it several times before. So basically, you could either be a pilot, a gunner. So it's a total of 6 spaces: pilot, gunner, or engineer. And it's almost like in order of like a descending sort of engagement, right? So as a
Yeah.
pilot, you have a lot of agency in actually steering the Millennium Falcon. Like one pilot will steer left and right, the other person will steer up and down. You could dictate, I think, different pathways that the ship will be on. The gunners would just be shooting things and making, racking up scores, and the amount of coaxium you get at the end of it will determine how much credits you get. The engineer, the poor engineers, what we would do is just basically fix a ship, right? So as long as you fix a ship, you get more credits. And the first time I went, I was a gunner. The latter 2 times I was an engineer because I was matched with a family of like very excitable kids who wanted to pilot the ship.
Yeah.
Would I deprive them of the enjoyment? I would not. So I would just fix the ship with the parents.
So did you get to do something different this time?
So yeah, I mean, the first time I went with Alex and our party. I was the gunner, and I was very happy to be the gunner. But the other 2 times I went back,
Oh, okay.
when I did the singles line with separately. I was still a great ride. Just putting it out there. It's a really, really good Unreal Engine powered ride.
Yes. Oh, and I have it on good authority that this is one of the only public displays of Unreal Engine using multiple GPUs in a non in-display configuration. So this is actually a very robust and unique system that apparently required a lot of fixing. Apparently, when Smothers Run first opened, a lot of this wasn't quite working and the frame rate was quite bad. Then once they were able to utilize more GPUs properly, it became a very smooth and gorgeous looking experience.
Multiple GPUs, you say?
Yeah, multiple GPUs. You will see it. It's such a great looking ride as well. Like for those of us who've gone on Star Tours, remember that ride, right? Like that. This is like a better version of that. It's a real-time engine version of that, where you could pilot where you want to go. Like it's not just C3PO, like sort of bringing you to like a pre-rendered sequence.
Yeah, wow. All right,
it's good.
We got to get back to the ship.
Not yet. We got some lightsaber stuff to do.
That's right. So
okay, David.
All right. So basically, Alex and I got to build lightsabers, right? So this is really cool.
This is also something you can still do. So I don't want too many spoilers. All right. I've seen enough like videos online to know the general idea, but like leave some of the magic out if you could. All right.
Gotcha. So fine. So we built lightsabers, which is really cool, and we get to like, like activate it in a group and like sort of swing it around and it's really fun. Like it's a really nerdy thing to do. So my blade was not initially red, so it was initially I picked green. So it was a great color. There was a store next to the lightsaber building area, the lightsaber workshop called Doc Endar's, where you could buy different kyber crystals, which would change the color of your lightsaber. So I picked red because I basically picked a Sith style, evil looking hilt. So I was like, I got to buy red. So I was like, look, I'll just buy a red crystal. And then in front of me were these two other was a couple who were buying red crystals by the handful. I was like, what are you guys doing? Do you just need one? They're like, no, because 1 out of every 100 red kyber crystals.
100.
1 out of every 100 red kyber crystals is a black kyber crystal, which is essentially functionally the same as a red kyber crystal, but it was black and would sell for $300 on eBay. I was like, okay, cool. Well, good luck. So I just bought my little red kyber crystal, and they're like, wait, open it in front of us. We want to see if you get a black one. I'm like, look, I'm never that lucky, but sure. So a little crowd was forming. So that the sales assistant cast member also had like a little kyber crystal capsule opener. So she opened it and she unscrewed it, and then bloop, bloop, it was black. And I was like, no. And the couple was like, no. And then everyone started cheering and started giving me high fives. I was like, oh no, like this is so cool. I don't feel like I deserve it. Like the couple who like spent like probably hundreds of dollars buying like handfuls of red kyber crystals should deserve it. And I had half a mind to give it to them, but I just like, I didn't do it. I should have done it. Yeah, I got a black kyber crystal.
Yeah.
We see it.
David.
Just
on you.
Yeah, I can. So it's inside the lightsaber. So what I'm going to do is,
while David's kind of pulling it out, I've disassembled my lightsaber, and I can show you briefly that. So you actually do put your kyber crystal on the inside of it, and then it'll light up. Although the light's not quite coming through the video to do the different colors. So I know why it's not coming through, because it's green. But then I can take out my crystal there and put in the blue one, and then that would actually change my my blade blue. And there's great sound effects and everything. There we go.
So this is an incentive already for all of you who's listening to this podcast. Should just watch this on YouTube, because you can actually see me disassemble.
Yeah.
The freaking, so you can see it glow. Like basically, like kyber crystals like just glowing right there. It's pretty cool. It's so nerdy. I just
I gotta do this.
All right, so I'm gonna remove the switch, and you can see right there is a kyber crystal.
It's black,
and it's black.
Look at that.
It's insane. I can't believe this little thing is $300 on eBay.
There are crazier things worth $300, but they're not as cool as that. Yeah, wow.
I'm not sure if you can hear it, but basically it makes a sound when you put it in. It's really cool.
It's very cool.
So nerdy.
We'll be talking in a future episode about my time in Toronto at VRTO, but I do want to give a quick shout out to Ashley Huffman, who has constructed her own lightsaber that has no sound, but it has all these little haptic motors on it. And as you move the lightsaber around, you feel all the right vibrations of.
Oh,
It's amazing.
Ashley Huffman of the haptics. Ashley Huffman.
Exactly, that's right.
Oh man, I can't wait to sort of see that lightsaber.
I got to play with it. It felt so good.
I'm so jealous, man, because that's probably more legit than the ones we got for sure.
It was very cute. It was like a Yoda-sized lightsaber, but it felt amazing.
I have no doubt it probably feels super amazing. Like she's basically like the master of haptics.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She had like a Mary Poppins bag full of haptic toys. It was wonderful.
So cool. So all right.
Yeah, we came out of there. We were super, super hot. We stood in front of like a wind tunnel fan to cool off for a while.
Oh, do you have a picture of us holding on lightsabers? Is that what you have queued up?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just going to show like this is when we all pulled out our lightsabers. There is a wonderful theatrical presentation to the whole thing that, as Jacob said, like, you know, it is still going, so we don't want to spoil it. But you know, there's some very cool moments where they talk you through like where they got all these lightsaber parts from and how you go about assembling the whole thing. And what's his name? Savi?
Savi's workshop. Yep.
Savi's workshop. He's awesome. And it was super cool. Oh, last thing worth mentioning is you can actually get food in Batu. You're given like a free coupon code and you can order food on the app. And, the food there, not quite as good as the food back over in the Halcyon, but still very, very good. I had this like
still pretty damn good.
Was the lightsaber experience included in the experience?
No, it isn't.
No. Okay.
No, we shelled out. So what was it? $250 for the whole experience. It's a $250 lightsaber plus a theatrical thing.
Oh, and quick.
So that's how to make money.
In the same place where you can buy kyber crystals, they also have like, you know, replica lightsabers of all the different kinds that you can also think about purchasing. And those range from $100 to like $500. So,
wow. That's cool though. All right. So you had your lightsaber experience. You ate some food. You had a great time. You said you were there for like 3 or 4 hours. But actually, we should maybe talk about this. Alex, you've been showing us a few of these scans. What were you doing?
So I was using one of my favorite little apps called Polycam to be able to capture some of these parts of the park. And so basically, I would go through with Polycam, free app, and take a bunch of pictures. And then it would generate 3D models based on the data that it could acquire from there. And that was super cool. So in fact, you'll see that I've actually got a lot of scans from the experience. I've got one of our room. I've got one of the actual hotel. Let me pull one of those up really quick because I just had one of them ready. So this was the atrium right here. And I'd like to imagine that this will all be useful someday for like archival purposes. Decide to create like the VR 3D model of the whole thing.
Are you gonna be able to post links of this for your viewers to go and explore?
We'll put links to as much of here as we're comfortable sharing. David, are we going to share our 800 photo album, or maybe just a couple selects?
Oh, maybe select because I think we need to get permission from the rest of the crew because we're gonna have their faces up there. But
that's right.
Definitely fine for anything I have there, but I think you should definitely share your scans just because you're so cool and so people can sort of take a look if it's convenient or some way in some.
Yeah, and I encourage our listeners to import these scans into Unreal Engine and then clean them up and make really nice.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd like to experience if someone wants to rebuild this, you know, so that I can jump into it. I'm open. To it.
I think a VR version of the whole experience would be amazing.
Alex, maybe you got to recruit, this cast to do, a VR version.
That would be pretty remarkable.
The fidelity of scans that Alex has made, we have all the environment set up. It's
there you go.
It's no problem.
All right, so tell me about the end of this experience. How'd they pull you back in?
So this is a very interesting point of immersion breaking. Do you want to talk about this, David?
Sure. So basically, we were all super hot, super tired, ready to get back to the ship, and then we realized that that there was no shuttle. Basically, when we got there, the cast members. So just to explain a little bit, so the cast members Disney staff, right? Whether the performers or not, they're cast members. And you had the characters who are in costume, so your Lenka Mox, your Wraiths, your Lieutenant Croix, and you had the other cast members of the Halcyons, who we call the blue shirts, because that's what they were wearing. They're the blue shirt cast members. So when we arrived at terminals, we saw the blue shirts there, just sort of waiting nervously, and we're like, "Oh, what's going on?" They're like, "Oh, we will definitely bring it back to the ship, but you won't be taking a shuttle today." And I'm like, "What? What's going on?" So they sort of like break immersion a little bit, like, we will have to put you on an alternative transport. And just so you know, you'll be taken out of the story. You're not allowed to take out your phones. You're not allowed to, just pretend it never happened. Just pretend
wow.
that you are suddenly transported back to the Halcyon. And we're like, uh-oh, what's happening?
Yeah.
Then they led us through an alternate back door. And that's when we saw the back lot of the of Galaxy's Edge. And I'm
This
not even
is
sure if we're allowed
cool.
to talk about this.
Right.
So
It feels very like, ugh.
like, oh, like, like, so listeners, if you're hearing this, I guess pretend you never heard it from us. But basically, we went out to the back lot, and they very deliberately say you're not allowed to take pictures, you're not allowed to video anything. Take the bus and get back to the ship. So it was literally a bus. Like we boarded a Disney World bus, and got back on onto the ship through the same terminal that we entered through the first day, and took the same entry pod that we did on the first day, aka an elevator, back to the ship.
Oh, wow.
But as you can imagine, we can't show you anything. This is literally the backlot of Disney World. Like at one point, I think we're allowed to say this, right, Alex?
Yeah,
I think you can cut it out. Like we saw like Boba Fett, like in a golf cart, like getting ready for his next appearance in Disney World. So it was that sort of thing. It was immersion breaking, but obviously super cool for us nerds who wanted to see all the experience design stuff that Disney had prepared.
Yeah, that's way cool.
All the second DVD folks.
All the second DVD folks, indeed. So yeah. So we got back to the ship. The entry was the same route. We took the elevator back up, and we're back in the atrium. And that was the end of Batu, which for me was a huge relief because it was getting to be too warm, and I'm not a warm day person.
Yeah, and I went back on a different shuttle. I was sweating my face off while waiting for the bus, and I realized everyone around me looked much cooler than me, and everyone had been given these like soaking cold towels, except for me. I'm sure just by accident because I'd gotten there after everyone. But I was like, who can give me one of these cold towels? And I felt 1,000 times better once I had it. And like David was alluding to on day one, like they have frozen grapes, and like they really do have a great sense of hospitality and keeping you comfortable. But it's really a testament to how immersed we all felt, that going back on that bus felt like really weird. Like, again, cool from a perspective of like, oh, we get to see behind the scenes a little bit, but from a like, I am in this world and I am this character and I am on this 2.5 day Star Cruise. This is really strange. I'm clearly in Disney World right now and not Star Wars. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say this was the whole
sorry.
day. Like this shuttle was broken down for the whole day.
It seemed like for a couple of hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to. And so everything Alex said about hospitality, I just want to reiterate how good the blue shirts were. Again.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just the performers who made the experience amazing. It was the blue shirts who also remembered our names, who also were in character. Like they were custodians of the Halcyon, right? So the fact that they were attentive, like they was super white glove to us the whole time. Like the fact that they gave us cold towels, frozen grapes to sort of make us feel like a VIP in the Star Wars world was just spot on. It was just top notch.
Yeah, and there were so many little things that you could also do that just made you feel a little more special. First of all, just interacting with the blue shirts and the kinds of stories and engagement you could have with them was really cool because they were like almost at the same level as the actors. Our understanding was that they had kind of like an 80-20 rule where they could make up kind of like 20% of the story that they're giving you, but then 80% just had to be like, I'm a person and this is actually how things are going. So those all felt like little extra relationships. And also there was a cool little interaction you could have with them in the gift shop where if you said like, what was the exact like password, David, to get the little special.
I get, so we're not supposed to give this away.
Oh, no. Okay. Don't.
But I guess because it's closing, I think we can.
Yeah.
So the idea is that for the really, really hardcore fans who have demonstrated that they are part of the resistance, right? They're given a special code word to sort of tell the crew at the gift store. So basically, maybe I'll keep a mystery. So viewers, you can find out, what the code word is. But there's a phrase that you repeat to the blue shirts, and they'll be like, "Oh, so you are one of us," and they will actually sort of like make sure that the entire store is empty. They'll even distract the other sort of guests and sort of like shoo them out of the store a little bit, or distract them a little bit. And then one of them will sort of bring you to a special corner of the store where they show you a hidden panel, and they reveal all these special pins, like they look like normal pins, but they have a special mechanism on each of them, a different one on each one, that shows the resistance logo, the rebellion.
Wow.
It's really, really cool. Maybe I'll pull one up from the background a little bit.
Yeah,
But
do it.
basically, they would show you these pins, and like, these pins are for sale. So it's, again, another way to, like, milk money from you. But I was all in. I bought every pin I could find. It was just really cool. Like, you felt like, oh, this is a special moment, entirely orchestrated by the blue shirts to make you feel like you are special. And also you earned it because you are a true resistance person.
Oh, wow.
Which again made people like me feel a little bit mixed, because I sure was helping Lieutenant Croy a lot. But hey,
You had expected he would have merch, right, for First Order? They should
yeah,
have
I
done
wanted
that.
to say, like, how do I say I'm actually helping the First Order, and I want a special First Order? And
Yeah.
He was
Bleh.
biased. I don't know. All right. We got to keep moving. We got to keep things moving.
yeah. We had a little bit of time because we were probably back by like noon or something, and things really
Noon,
didn't kick
yeah.
off again until 4. And there were a lot of those activities going on I mentioned before, like droid racing. You can see a little bit of my LumePad capture here. It's upside down. I was filming with my LumePad, so it was stereo, so this obviously looks better on the pad itself, or in 360 VR. But there was that stuff going on. There was bingo. We finally got a hold of the sabacc table, which was great. So we all got to play together. Who was really good at it? I feel like maybe like Dante or something was actually
Dante was amazing at
kicking
it.
our butts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marshall also had a good winning streak. It was neat. They tried to do this kind of projection thing where it felt like it was showing you your cards in kind of a holographic way. I liked the idea. It didn't quite hold up the way I think they were trying to do it, but this whole table was very special. There's only one of these, so it was a rare treat to actually, get a group of people together to play.
Cool.
I just have to say that the fact that they designed an entire sabacc game that's unique only to the Halcyon was pretty damn amazing. Like they not just built the rules for this game for the Halcyon, they built an entire freaking table for that, and on top of that, they made merch. So they made special sabacc cards that are meant to be just, again, played on the Halcyon. What do they call it? They called it Coruscant Shift, like, but
Yeah.
sabacc Coruscant Shift. Like, there's a whole name behind it. There was a lot of effort that went into this, clearly, right?
Wow.
And I heard from the No Pro podcast that Nick Fortuno doesn't think this is the best designed version of sabacc. So he is designing a new version that he named during his experience the Halcyon Shuffle. So we'll see how that turns out.
Oh man, I would play anything that Nick Fortuno makes. I'm sure it is probably better.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Also, here's David getting the glass that you saw him demonstrating a moment ago.
Oh, and this is Audra. This is like one of the best cocktail servers that we've ever had in my life. So again, another shout out to how awesome the blue shirts were. But she took care of us. She remembered all our names.
Yeah.
And remember all our drinks. And it was my full birthday. My birthday was actually going to be a little bit later, but we just called it my birthday. I got a souvenir mug. It was just great.
There was a great moment where Kevin had been down in the room talking to D309 and had to do a whole thing about like, oh, just so you know, Chewbacca is on the ship, but like, don't tell the First Order about it or anything like that. And then the stormtroopers came up as Kevin is relaying this to us. And the stormtroopers basically come up behind Kevin and say, like, have you heard of any, resistance activity on the ship? And Kevin ends up very sweatily repeating the same thing that he's been helping D309 with, explaining like, oh yeah, I mean, I saw Chewbacca. The stormtroopers explicitly asked like, have you seen Chewbacca? And he's like, I did see Chewbacca, but Chewbacca was on a skateboard going out, the door over there. It was so crazy. I only remember it because he was on a skateboard. And to get that like stone-faced Blue Man Group kind of like reaction of the stormtroopers to Kevin's crazy story was so satisfying and so good.
So they played along start to finish, is what you're saying.
And we probably should mention
yeah.
briefly how incredible the stormtrooper, mechanics are there. David, you want to mention something about that?
Yeah, so I mean, they have a whole pattern around this. So basically, like all the stormtroopers, they're not actually speaking, so they're all repeating voice lines, right? So what Disney actually did was they there's some gesture recognition through their hands and through buttons they press on their rifles that allows them to sort of string together not just whole lines but words to form sentences, right?
Oh wow.
So they speak through gestures basically. And so they would all sound the same. They would sound like the stormtroopers you would hear on the movies. They would not sound like whoever cast member it is who was playing them. They would sound like a stormtrooper, and they would have intelligent, like totally intelligible conversations that you could have through just voice gesturing itself. It was definitely going to be. I would love to be a fly on the wall just to see them learn how to do that, like
Yeah.
or even just learn how that happens. But it's crazy. Like it's so good.
That's
Yeah,
gonna be
they do
hard.
such a good job of making it feel like you're having this organic conversation with them, even though there is a very strict limit to the number of lines and variation to those lines they can say.
Yeah, you can tell like there was some stormtroopers who were probably less fluent, so they all could say. They always just heard them say affirmative, negative.
Right.
Yeah,
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Real quick.
Because part of the narrative with stormtroopers is that obviously they're all the same person. They're clones, right? And like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but see, that's where things get a little bit tricky because we're supposed to be between Star Wars Episode 8 and 9. And by that point, of course, we know John Boyega and all these other people are not clones and they're regular people. And I don't think there's any clone stormtroopers left, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not talking about that. Forget about all that. I didn't want to think about the
Post-Clone
fact that
Wars.
this was like new trilogy. And,
yeah, I mean, what's so great about this is it is not leaning at all on like you having to love like the new trilogy or even Star Wars for that matter. Like these are original characters for the most part who you get to form a very special relationship with. And as far as we know, the person we met who is Wraith Cole, like they are Wraith Cole, and we met Lenka and we met Gaia. And what's crazy, what was totally trippy afterwards, finding out that some of those performers actually play other roles. So you see the actor who's playing Lieutenant Croy in the Wraith outfit or in the Sammy outfit. And it's like, oh my God, like it blows your mind because you're thinking like, of course they can do that. They're actors. Of course they can jump between these different roles, but you identify them so strongly as the characters they were playing on your experience. It just goes to show how intimate and personal the whole thing is.
And to be clear, it's not like a Disney princess where you need to be a type to play a certain character.
Yeah.
Right. So the person who played Croy for us was this like super British dude, right? Like, so he played like the typical sort of imperial sort of like stereotype officer that you'd imagine. But we also saw him in character as a Wraith Cole. And our Wraith Cole was like dashing, handsome, tall dude who's like a Han Solo type. But he could also be, I can see him playing a Wraith Cole, which is like a British dude type.
Or a Lieutenant
like,
Croy,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like they did a good. I'm sure when they embody different characters as themselves, like it's probably a different experience, a different character arc that they probably might have gone on as well.
do you think they take real liberties with these roles, or do you think? I guess it's hard for me to tell based on some of the stories. It sounds like it felt very natural overall. But it also sounds like they had a script to stick to because you had strict narrative moments you were kind of always meant to hit.
I'm pretty sure that they had very strict structures that he needed to go through, but the way they played their character was probably open up to them. and the director, right, or the direction they got. I don't know, Alex. I'm curious to take your take on this. How much liberty do you think the actors had?
I think they definitely need to hit certain beats, and in fact, the tightrope they're walking is even more complex than I think the average person realizes, because they have all these other outside forces on them. There are, again, things happening every 5 minutes, and those beats need to be hit. There are equity union contract rules that mean, like, someone might be in the middle of a conversation with you, and they need to get back to the green room because it is time for their break, and union rules say it's time for their break. And then, there's certain narrative things they hit that they have to do in a certain way. But like, if you start diving into one of these characters' backstories, like, they might have 80% of that figured out already when you're asking to them, but you might steer them in a direction that's totally new, and they need to be able to improvise something that isn't going to break any kind of canon or screw up any of the other plot lines happening, but feels believable and truthful in the moment. So all these performers, like, really, really incredible, the work they're doing.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, you never really feel jilted. Like, there were a couple times when I was talking to someone and they did like rush off very quickly, and I didn't feel slighted. I felt like, oh, they have something really important to do, even though it might have been like a union rule. They need to go take a break right now. They made it feel okay.
I'm not sure if you noticed, but Wraith had a giant wristwatch that had a timer on it. So that was, I guess, for him, a cue for when he needed to sort of pop into the next thing. But I did not see that on any other cast member. So I wonder, like, what was Lenka's version? Was it a pendant? What it had to be somewhere close by, right? I don't know.
That's a good question. Yeah. David, I wonder if it is time to talk about the heist, which you were a very big part of. This got started right around 4.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, so I followed the smuggler / resistance plotline, and I really wanted to double down on the scoundrel smuggler plotline. So I tried to hang around Wraith as much as I could. So that made me involved in basically all the secret missions that he could possibly give me, right? So the story context is, so he's Gaia's manager, but turns out that he's obviously more than that. He and Gaia are actually on the Halcyon to perform a heist. So you might have heard something about the Singing Stone just now. That was what they wanted to steal. So you're thinking, all right, so these folks are clearly scoundrels. They're here to steal a stone because they're scoundrels. But no, there's a plot reveal that they're actually stealing it because it's actually from the Twi'lek homeworld. So they're actually stealing the stone back for Gaia, because turns out Wraith Cole was brought up and adopted by a Twi'lek family. So this whole like justification for being a scoundrel, which made it then seem okay to actually perform a heist on the Halcyon. So kudos on the narrative part. The actual mechanics of the heist were really cool. So we were divided into different groups, and we all had different things to do. As you imagine a heist would be performed. The people who sort of do certain activities here and there, there'd be other people who sort of do other things, and it all came together in a really cool Ocean's 11 style thing where everything worked like clockwork. People were distracted. A team would go behind the counter there and steal the stone, and it was really satisfying to watch.
So you were part of it, though. So what was your role in this?
So basically, it got to the point where like some of us had to perform a faux proposal, right? So a couple was chosen to be proposed to distract the crowd. A group of us were tasked to tell everybody to pay attention to the proposal, because not all of us were clued in to the fact that this heist was going on, right? And so
Alex,
I was part
were
of the
you
group
clued into this?
No, so I really quickly, because so much of what David was doing, I did not know about, but I was part of this group where I was told that if I wanted to help Wraith accomplish his mission without even really knowing what the mission was, I should be trying to make sure the stormtroopers stayed away from that area. And I'm trying to get this video to play. It looks like it only wants to play when I do this. So we were doing, I forget what it's called, but there were a couple Sajo members who were going through like the meditation Tai Chi kind of thing. And I was part of the group that was trying to convince the stormtroopers to learn, this Tai Chi method as a means of distraction. So this was happening. The wedding proposal was happening. I saw that over in the distance. I assumed that was part of the distraction system, but I didn't know for sure. And then David got to be a little bit more intimately involved with the whole thing.
Yeah, some luckier folks were actually part of the heist themselves, right? So we had like two passengers who were dressed entirely in a Twilight costume. So you might have seen the purple lady earlier on, right?
Yeah.
So she and another lady were basically tasked to be the people to steal the stone themselves because they're Twi'leks, because it made sense narratively, logically that they would want the stone back. So they were tasked to actually go behind the counter itself and to case the stone. It was really cool.
So what were you doing this time?
So yeah, so basically we had to make sure that the stormtroopers were looking a certain way. We had to make sure that all the people were all just looking in a certain direction so that they could do that. So I was just basically trying to, hey, everyone, just pay attention to the proposal that's happening. Look over there, look over there. So it was a really small role, but hey, it felt important because I was just yeah, experience design.
No, I mean that's cool. So it sounds like up to this point we've heard a lot about the resistance. Alex, you were on the dark side here. What was going on there?
We were telling Croy about all the shenanigans going on. I was telling Croy about what I knew about the heist. I was telling him what I knew about resistance members on board. It's sometime around 4 o'clock. I did not get to see this in person, but I heard that Ray was on board. Like Ray,
Yeah,
Star
Ray
Wars
was on
fame,
board.
like sneaks onto the ship, and some people get to have that similar moment to Chewbacca the day before, where she just appears, and it's like, oh my god, it's Ray. And I just immediately like talked to Croy about it. I was like, so Ray, that desert scavenger who's become quite a meaningful Jedi. Yeah, I heard she's on the ship, and so we
How did he
all
react?
this fear for the First Order, and eventually they like properly take over the ship. Like they drop their friggin' Nazi banners over the balcony, and they're like, "We are taking over the ship. There's too much resistance activity, and things get pretty wild." I did want to show a quick shot of there was this cool moment after the heist though, where a bunch of us got to gather in like this little tiny cargo area, which was actually way too tight
Oh
for
yeah.
people. And we got to, just have like a big celebration with Gaia and Wraith and be like, great job, everyone. We got the heist done. There was a nice message in our data pad. And that was all super cool.
I should also explain at this point that by the second day, not everyone could go to these things.
Yeah.
You had to be chosen and selected. So some of us were only allowed entry by scanning out M-bands, so they know that this is only open to us. Some experiences actually, there was a blue shirt who had a data pad, who had an iPad, and would basically check to see if you were allowed to go in before you're allowed to go in.
Oh wow.
So some things were like guest list invite only, right?
Yeah.
So this giant room with Wraith and this sort of Wraith ending was not a guest list thing only, but others, which we'll soon get into, were.
Yeah.
All right,
Definitely the closest I got to feeling actual FOMO was David's like, I had to go do a special thing. And I was like, oh, cool. I literally have nothing on my schedule right now. I've done all the other things. I've got like 40 minutes free. Why don't I come with you and we'll see if I can be your +1? And David did this thing and they just like turned me away at the door. They're like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And we were both actually shocked because like, oh no, because I was expecting to go to all the special things that I couldn't go through Alex, but as you would expect, they were all gate kept by a person on iPad. So basically at this point, so to fast forward a little bit, like, the ship's been taken over to First Order, Ray's on board, Chewbacca's on board. They're trying to figure out a way to make sure that we can save everyone and make sure, that the First Order doesn't win. So at this point, we have done all missions on Batu, and we have like special minerals called coaxium and all this sort of stuff. But basically, because I was part of Resistance, I got a message from Lenka Mok. She was like, I need you in engineering, and only you can come through engineering. Do not bring anyone else. So I was like, okay. I went there with Alex. Alex was turned away, and I went through, and turns out it was just me and 4 other people with Lenka Mok. So it was like a private one-on-one experience. And engineering was basically this giant room where you had all these like machinery parts, and really it's just a well-themed escape room, right? So you have all these dials and levers, and basically we had to work together, like me and the other 3 or 4 people with Lenka, to hack the engine to make sure that we can break away from the First Order embargo place, whatever, right? So we had to like refuel the engine. I don't know what technical thing we were supposed to do, but to do something in the engine. So we had to do that. It was basically like a 15-minute one-on-one experience with Lenka, and it was so cool because it's like, I had to like make new friends. I had to like learn how to operate the engineering machinery. And it was a blast. And I thought that was like, oh gosh, only me and 3 other people got to do it. But then later we revealed that they found a way to schedule different groups of one-on-one
I
experiences.
was about to ask.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, but you had to earn it, right? So you had to have gone further down enough down the resistance path to have gotten this ending. Alex, on the other hand, got a Jedi thing, right?
I did. I got invited to a special Saja thing. And I just want to piggyback on what David was saying there. They do such a good job of coordinating all these different things happening at the same time. So while one group is having dinner, all these other people get their endings, and another group has dinner, and then a lot of those get repeated. But again, it allows everyone to be in much smaller groups for something that feels special and not like you're just in a big crowd of 1,000 other people doing the same thing. We heard that up to 360 people can do this experience, and it never feels that overwhelmingly full. Like there's a couple big events in the atrium where you kind of feel that size, but for the most part, everything feels very tailored to just you and your story. I also want to shout out on day 1 and actually day 2 as well. There's all these things that everyone does, like the lightsaber and the bridge training. The bridge training actually ends up being different for every group who does it. Every time there's bridge training, there is some special event that is happening that is making each of those bridge trainings unique. You are picking up Gaia, or Lieutenant Croy comes in at a certain moment, or there's a thing that you're hearing about with Chewbacca. And so the Saja finale that I got to have was actually a little bit different from what some other people had. So basically, let's see if I can find any proper clip of it. You go into the room. This is the first time I got to see Rey, and Rey is there and telling us how we need to help her with the resistance. And it's going to be silly if I can't find a clip of this. By the way, this is the day 2 bridge training, which our special one had Lieutenant Croy in it. So as the people who are following Croy and helping the First Order, after the First Order were taking over the ship, we're then using our piloting skills to try to help the First Order commandeer the ship. That was very cool. I swear I was just looking at the Saja ending, but basically there were 2 different versions of this, because in our version, not only did we get to have this whole experience with Rey, where we see a holocron image of Yoda and all that, but we
Spoilers.
Also, yeah.
Yoda, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry, spoilers. It was cool to see Yoda. It would have been cooler if it was Luke Skywalker. I'm happy for Yoda. Here we go. So very private, not that many of us. Here's Rey. Here's our now unshackled droid who is here to display this message. There's this force moment. They make it very theatrical. You close your eyes as the lights dim and you don't see the like plexiglass panel coming up to do this Pepper's ghost illusion to make everything happen. Rey has this great moment with like each of you, and you have this like eye contact. And then what happened in ours, which is different from the other little private moments where Rey essentially, I'm sure, had to repeat exactly the same scene, is we follow Rey out, and then Rey has a confrontation with Lieutenant Croy in the hallway and actually has to do a Jedi mind trick on him to make him forget that she was there. And you're like, oh, wow, I guess Lieutenant Croy, not that strong of a mind there. It was so easy for her to do a Jedi mind trick on him. And
that's so cool.
Saja ending. Some people got to have another Saja special end where they got to go out into like the rock garden and actually make those rocks levitate. Those were with the Saja, not with Rey, and that one
that's insane.
Sounded like it was amazing.
I just want to also call out that bridge training, you wonder why do they give you bridge training, right? So it's super clever. So everyone, like Alex says, when you go for bridge training is actually a narrative event, like whether or not you're picking Gaia up, whatever. But it's also in preparation for a finale that everyone gets at the second end of the second day. So everyone at one point will have to check into the bridge, depending on how far down a path you've gone, whether it's with the Resistance, whether it's with Croy, or whether it's with Wraith Cole. And at that point, when you go into the bridge, a narrative event happens, and then you are tasked to operate the bridge. So all the training you had on the first day is now being used on the second day, and it pays off. It's just super satisfying to sort of see you. So on the first day, you do it with your friends, right? Because you're going as a group. On the second day, you are all split up. So you are expected to sort of make new friends and operate, things differently with different people. So at that point, I mean, I think we lucked out where we ended up going to the same thing together, Alex. I know a lot. We ended up doing the Wraith thing all at once. But I can imagine a separate party where they, one person's doing a Lieutenant Croy bridge event, and the others are doing like a Wraith event or a resistance event.
Right.
So it's just like it's just really a masterpiece in design for experience design. I'm just in awe.
What were your experiences then? Let's get into it. Like, what was the finale to the second day?
So the bridge experience itself was, I can't remember, Alex, what happened. We were helping Wraith basically.
Well, I wasn't on the Wraith bridge experience. I was on the Lieutenant Croy bridge experience. I think
you were.
Kevin or Dante was with you for that one.
Correct. So Kevin and Dante was with me, but I can't remember now. Basically, we had to help Wraith through something, and halfway through, we would see Oscar Isaac. Like basically, we were helping to break the Halcyon out of the blockade that we were in. So we had to commandeer past like TIE fighters and stuff, and we had to shoot down TIE fighters. And Oscar Isaac sort of appears, and he's like, "Follow me. We'll make sure you get out of here." And it becomes this entire chase sequence. C-3PO shows up. It's like, wow, it's like a cameo experience where you get to see all your favorite characters from the movies. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that our whole group, we all did our bridge training together on the first day. So it's kind of neat that we all had these other kinds of paths that we used our training for on the second day, like helping Lieutenant Croy blow things out of the sky. Oh, and I just remembered actually the cool moment of what happened with the bridge training with Croy, or the finale here, was that the First Order decides to actually blow up the Halcyon, and he's like, no, like, please don't. I'm here and I've got everything covered. And they're basically like, no, Croy, you failed your mission. Like, we just got to blow up the whole thing. So then, even though we are ostensibly, there to help the First Order, we end up fighting off the First Order and these Star Destroyers and everything to stop them from blowing up the ship. So it's kind of like a cool redemption arc for all of those of us who chose the dark side here.
So did you shoot down TIE fighters as well? Like you basically had that?
So yeah, the whole thing is a little bit of a blur, but it was great because once again, you're like rushing from station to station and trying to like frantically do whatever the different things are. By the way, my favorite thing in the bridge was basically the VR game Keep Talking and No One Explodes, where you have this big panel of all these different puzzles. Every panel is different. It's like hit these switches, turn off these lights, move these dials, and like you need to get things to match in a certain way in order to stop things from happening or make things happen.
For everyone out there who loves fidget spinners or just fidget gadgets, this is basically that, but at scale. It was so fun.
Okay,
here's a quick look at just what that looked like a little bit on the bridge. So Croy's like, yelling at us all to do different things. Let me try turning on the volume for a second and see if we hear anything.
Front starboard weapon stations. Exchange positions with starboard system stations. And rear front port side stations. Exchange positions with port system stations.
Oh yeah, that's just the part where we swapped what we were doing on the ship. Yeah.
And that's the voice of the ship's computer, just so you know. Like the ship's computer was the diegetic instructor telling us what to do in the absence of a cast member.
Yeah. And here's a quick peek. Oh, it's not playing from there. A quick peek at what was happening inside the room with Yoda, if we're gonna see it.
Oh, you recorded it?
Yeah, with my Ray-Bans, with my eyes closed. Here we go. The whole room goes dark. You're supposed to have your eyes closed. I'm just recording my Ray-Bans, and then hop on my step.
Look at that.
Obviously, seeing a training video of it is the same power as being there in person. But there's Yoda.
Wow, that's so cool.
Neat.
So I just, for the record, I did not get this experience because I got the Resistance escape room engineering thing already. But I'm super jealous. I wish I saw Yoda. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Such a great variety of different things going on. I just couldn't believe how, I want to say like how complete the whole thing felt. It was very, very gestalt, very, there's another word for like complete work where like every little detail and nuance is considered, and they did such a good job of that. And then, did we do dinner before the finale? I think we did dinner before the finale.
We did
right?
We did dinner and then a finale.
So what was cool about dinner on this night, David?
So this dinner was even fancier than the first night. So when we thought our first night couldn't get fancy enough, instead of like a la carte, dinner served dinner service. Like they had a whole orchestration, a whole choreography of like all these servers sort of. So a big booming voice would come on announcing the meal, and then the servers would come out with the meals and to put them on our tables, versus the first night where they would just serve it themselves, right? So it felt like I guess an elevated dining experience, and the food was also like, I guess, a level up. It wasn't just the stuff we tried on the first day. It was completely reimagined based on the different worlds of Star Wars. So like they had something from Mustafar, something from Coruscant, something from another planet I can't remember, but it was all themed really well, and again, all extremely delicious. I have to say again, the bantha meat, the aka beef short rib, is some of the best I've ever had, and it's consistently amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, and again, on the note of accessibility, Kevin, vegetarian, has been for a long time, and Kevin got these special meals, like the same number of courses and everything as us, but special kind of vegetarian option meals, which I felt that Kevin was willing to share with me. So I got to try, a total of like 8 or 9 different meals over the course of that evening.
It was also good. I'm looking at all this is making me hungry. I think after this recording, I'm just gonna get some more food, because look at that freaking dessert.
All right, so let's get to the meat here, though. You finished dinner.
We briefly skipped the Gaia acoustic concert. What was happening during the acoustic concert, David? Do you remember?
I don't remember at all. I think we were busy. I think we had other things going on, right? Like we had gosh, was it a heist?
I don't remember if that was actually part of the heist.
It might have been just before the heist. I can't remember now.
So here's this is one of our data pads. So that our schedule would look different for everyone. Acoustically, Gaia was from 7:15 to 7:45, so right before dinner. So it was after the heist.
It was after the heist.
Maybe, yeah, but I feel like there was like plot beats in there as well, though I can't quite remember them.
I can't remember as well. I guess it was like probably the D plots of the romance plots, right? Like between Gaia's backup dancer and this other guy who's also a singer.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name. That just shows how little I talked to him. That's terrible.
What was his name? Wow, I can't believe I'm blanking on that.
I know.
By the way, anyone who listens to the No Pro podcast about this, listen till the very end, because you get to hear Noah Nelson improvise a Star Wars language song, singing with the guitar guy there, and it was actually
really.
So yeah.
That's insane, man. I think going on a trip with the No Pro people is a trip in itself, above going to the Starcruiser.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's get to the finale.
Let's go to finale. Let's do it.
I'm trying to find a good spot. Basically, what we can give the short version, and I think anyone who's listening to this understands that, like, the direct plot line, that wasn't the most important thing to David and I. The plot line is there; it's a good reason to like keep your body and your mind moving. But it really is about these conversations, these relationships, these connections, these kind of spectacle moments that just make the whole thing feel so unique, so special, so communal. It's really quite something. So of course. In the end, you have what you must have in a Star Wars thing, a big blue beam shooting from the sky. No, that's Marvel. In here, you get to have a lightsaber fight between not just Rey, which I guess would be her fighting by herself, but who shows up on the ship to fight Rey.
But Adam Driver. Kylo Ren.
Yes, there we go.
So at this point, we get to see the really cool retractable lightsaber that some of you might have seen in videos. But basically, Rey wields a retractable lightsaber, and you can sort of see her switch it out with a prop saber at one point. But the fact that the moment when she turns it on is just kind of mind-blowingly awesome. Now, the YouTube videos out there you can Google to sort of see that. But it's just really cool to think that, Imagineers have created a lightsaber that retracts, right? So there's a whole lightsaber battle between her and Kylo Ren. Spoiler alert, good guys win. Kylo Ren loses. But they have this really, basically, it's like the pyrotechnics, right? There's sparks. There's a chandelier that falls. It's almost like they borrowed from freaking Phantom. Like, it's like they had all these proper stage theatrical moments that made it feel like a proper finale. I would say that it's definitely a highlight for the show. But again, taking a step back, going to what Alex said though, what was the best part for me wasn't the finale. It wasn't the food as much as I love the food. It was the fact that, and if you're listening to this podcast, like just know this, like for me, if you just can remember one thing from this entire podcast, is that this experience made you feel special.
Yeah.
Like they had all the right ingredients that made it feel like you mattered in this Star Wars universe. They had all the tricks in the book that made you feel like it was your Star Wars story. And it wasn't just because of this large narrative. It wasn't just because of all the pyrotechnics and all the special effects, or it wasn't even just because of the good food or the great cast members. It was a combination of everything, the gestalt that Alex is alluding to. I wish I could find a better word for it, but it's So I think it's a good. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just gonna ask, like, so in the photos you're showing, and in the photos you have been showing, kind of all this activity happens up on this balcony, right? Or it seems like it's on this wraparound balcony that kind of happens above you. It's like the stage, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Was it at all disengaging to have it happen like over there, whereas like the rest of the activity you were in was very much in front of you, it seemed?
Yeah, great question. There definitely were some parts, especially on the side balconies, where you just could not see anything going on. So some sightlines were not ideal. Usually when something was front and center, that was okay. And it allowed them to do a lot of things that they just couldn't do if there were, audience members. More violent than the films. Like there's a lot of them like slamming each other's heads into the railing, and there's a lot more choking going on, and it was like a little more disturbing of a fight than I was expecting. But two very talented performers doing their thing. And by the way, there was an extra Saja who we noticed who was there on day 2. Ostensibly, they were picked up on Batuu. All makes sense within the story. This was Saja Grayson. But it's like, oh, hey, no one saw Saja Grayson during the Kylo Ren fight. Usually when you have an actor, you're going to have them for an 8-hour shift. I wonder who played Kylo Ren. But it was all great and very well integrated into the whole experience. One thing I want to mention too is after everything ends, the whole main plot is over. Back in the bridge room, we get to watch someone play with the Unreal Engine Marketplace fireworks effect whole finale with the credits music. And the unfortunate thing for me that I realized at this moment was they're playing the Star Wars credits music, and I realized how many people work on a piece like this who never get credit for it. You never see their name.
Yeah.
And for this brief moment, I thought, like, are we going to see the 800 people who worked on this piece? And unfortunately not. That's just not a thing you see in immersive theater. But if only.
I would feel that it would actually add to the experiences, have the proper Star Wars credit, the blue credits fade in and out, because it felt like the right moment for it, right? Everyone's looking at the screen. You could still have the fireworks. You could still use the Unreal Engine as a store at fireworks. It would be a great time to have the credits right there. I felt it was kind of empty, honestly, with just seeing the fireworks. I was okay for the non-diegesis of credits coming out, because actually it would be more holistically Star Wars for me, despite the non-diegesis.
Yeah. And
saying.
You're kind of ending the story at that moment, the primary story. And what you saw after that, because by that point it's like, I don't know, 9 p.m. at night or something like that. A lot of people who were in character the entire time you'd seen them up to that point, they felt comfortable kind of relaxing at that point and being like, hey, my name's James. I've done the experience 3 times before. I know I was playing like a bounty hunter. Like, now we can just chat. And that was really cool. So, I think if we had all been kicked out of the experience right after that finale, it would have been a little overwhelming. I think it would have been kind of traumatic. People like to talk about transformative experiences in theater. Sometimes a transformative experience can be traumatic if it's not properly curated and handheld. And so some people were like, oh yeah, why does it keep going after that finale is over? Because you don't leave until the next day. And I think it is absolutely the right decision to let you come down off of that crazy experience you've had, relax, process it, talk to other people, have that night. We were in the bar until the bar closed, not because we're alcoholics, but because we're having such great conversations with everyone. And then you get to, kind of sleep through the thing and then leave the next morning. But yeah, David, any observations about how it felt between the story ending and the rest of the night, and then how we wrap things up?
Man, I think you nailed all the great pieces though. I mean, it's just basically the psychological. You described the psychological anti-room, right? And that's what they built the
Yeah.
space for, and it's very deliberate. You could feel that because it's like at the end of every conference is a conference drop, right?
Yeah.
What they call a LARP drop or
drop.
like a conference drop. I definitely started feeling that the minute the credits rolled. I was like, oh, this is the end. But hey, I'm still here for like another 8 more hours. I'm gonna hang out with my friends, my new friends, my old friends. We're just gonna have a drink at the cantina. And sure, you're not in character anymore, but it doesn't matter. We can talk about the experience. Like some of the best things about going to watch a show is talking to your friends about it afterwards. And they gave us a space for that. They kept the lounge, the cocktail lounge, the cantina. It's not it's a lounge, the sublight lounge, open to allow people to do that. And I'm grateful that they did, because that's how I guess we decompressed from our LARP drop.
Well, that's how the credits kept rolling, right? I mean, it sounds like I mean, even on this podcast, right? We've been talking for a long time now, but there's been a bunch of moments here where it's been, oh, well, I didn't know you did that. Yeah, oh, I didn't know that happened, and so on and so forth. It sounded like at that point, there must have been so much to talk about.
So much. I mean, already I'm sure you can tell, like, we're blanking on things, like, and I think we've really just covered 20% of like what we've actually seen. There's a lot more, like, like going through. I'm just watching Alex go through all the photographs. There's so much, like this freaking Alex. You got to talk about this Narkina 5 prisoner sequence.
Yeah. So some people, of course, they plan out a lot of things before they actually come here. And Elizabeth, my wife, had bought like costumes to kind of share with anyone who wanted to use them. And one of them was the Narkina 5 prisoner outfit from Andor, which, by the way, super comfy outfit, basically feels like pajamas. And I was the only person who was wearing this the entire 3 days as like my costume. But then the woman in the red hair here, she came up to me after like the first day and was like, oh, are you gonna wear that for our photo shoot on the last day? And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But apparently she'd organized with a bunch of people like to bring an Narkina 5 prison uniform. And then we did this like little photo shoot of, on program and one way out. And we just had a great time kind of making this whole thing feel as Andor-y as possible. And there were so many people just having such a ball with this thing.
But again, it goes to show that the anti-room also allows for this sort of play, right? So you're no longer a part of the main story, and that's when you can sort of break characters, just do these fun community things. Frankly, really like it's sort of conference style things, which is still super fun while you're still in the space, and you're doing it with friends, new and old, that you've met on the cruise itself. It's literally the best thing to do to decompress.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that space was there. Frankly, I think I could have. Honestly, what do you think, Alex? Do you think that was the right amount of time for decompression, or do you think we could have used more time or less time?
For me, it was perfect. Like I was really happy to stay up super late chatting with everyone as long as I could. I got to hang out with a bunch of people who I was like curious about the entire experience, but they seemed like so in characters, like so much more than me, that I was almost afraid to break that or invade that in any kind of way. So when some of those people relaxed a little bit, it was really cool to hear about like, what they do for a living and why Star Wars is so meaningful to them and why immersive experiences are a place where they feel like they can really express themselves. And afterwards, there was a Facebook group specifically for people who were on the July 8th, 9th, 10th experience. There's a Discord channel where people keep this going. It is interesting to note that there's no official like offboarding from Disney. There's no like real follow-up email or anything that tries to keep all of you together, but there is a nice community push for people to stay in touch and remember that they shared this special experience together. And even though I barely use Facebook at all, probably there's 5 or 6 people from this experience who I met on the cruise, and I'm still, chatting with a little bit about Star Wars things, but also totally random things as well. We met people who are also game designers, experience designers, working in VR, working in all sorts of other related fields that interest us as well.
Wow. All right. Okay, guys. I feel like we're at a good point. I have some questions for both of you. All right.
Let's do it.
The first one is, did you feel like the amount of time you had there was the and not just this last little bit, but the whole thing. Do you feel like the amount of time you had there was the right amount of time? Or do you wish it had gone longer? Do you wish it had been shorter?
For me,
We're
it was
not we're
I
taking
feel-
money out of the equation here. We're just talking about the
Yeah.
experience itself.
So I felt that they could have used an additional day with the same amount of activity to allow for gaps of rest and exploration. Again, if money was not, part of the equation, right? I think there was a lot that was happening in the 2.5 days that we were there that I can see why people would be overwhelmed. Like I love doing these things, but even I got really tired. That said, though, I can see also value for them packing everything the way they did because that allowed for the density of interaction that made it so magical. So, man, I'm going to give you a cop-out answer where, like, I kind of wish I had one more day, but I also am glad it was just 2.5 days.
All right. Alex?
It felt really good to me. It felt like the right amount of time. There were a couple of lulls where like I felt like there wasn't quite enough for me to do, and I wanted actually more activity, which might sound counterintuitive. But I was looking for any reason to stay as immersed as possible and not be left to my own thoughts and start thinking about like what I need to do, for work to catch up on my job when I get home or anything like that. So the amount of time ultimately ended up being perfect for me. It felt like a charrette. Oh, and by the way, I did find the German word we were looking for. Gesamtkunstwerk, which is the German term that translates as total work of art and describes artwork design or creative process where different art form to create a single cohesive whole. I'm sure I didn't pronounce that correctly. Gesamtkunstwerk. And that is absolutely what this experience was. The architecture, the music, the acting, the pacing of the whole story.
Hey, wait. I asked you a specific question. We can get to your to your overview here at the end. All right. We gotta.
I just really wanted to remember that German word. Sorry.
All right. So, David, maybe an extra day. Who knows? Maybe not. Alex, pretty good. All right. Now, throwing it back to David, I want, like, out of this whole experience, what was your highlight and what was like the one thing that you wish had not happened during that time?
Okay, I'm going to answer the last question first because that's easy. I cannot think of one. I think everything happened perfectly and for a reason, and I was glad that everything happened the way they did. If I had to nitpick, I mean, this is not something that was within their control. I mean, obviously, the shuttle back from Batu could have been a shuttle and not the bus. But honestly, as designer Dave, I was glad I saw the behind the scenes. So actually, I wouldn't have touched that. Now, the first question, man, like the highlight, that's hard to pick. But I keep going back to Lenka Mock and the little Lenka because it's just such an emotionally moving thing for me. I love it when I see little kids sort of like see themselves represented in characters, and I love seeing a change visibly in my very eye in front of me. Like I watched that shy girl become a not shy girl.
Yeah.
So that for me was actually personally super moving. And the fact that a fantasy world and a wonderful cast member did that just made it all the more worthwhile. And keep in mind, this is in already the backdrop of a wonderful experience that everyone else has happened. Like the entire space of people are having, right? So, but that is memorable for me. I will never forget that from this experience.
Yeah, wow. All right, those are some good thoughts there, Alex. Give me your highlight, low light. What happened?
A highlight for me was definitely one of the first interactions that I had with Lieutenant Croy, where he absolutely felt like a scary first order official. And again, like I fortunately have never encountered a real world equivalent of someone like this. And so to have this moment of like trying to confront something that on some visceral level was a little bit frightening to me, and to find a way to actually like form a relationship here that was both like dangerous but also very friendly and warm and welcoming, and to actually make him crack up when I got to tell him the story of like why I was wearing an Arkina 5 prison uniform, that felt really good. That was like this really perfect like unique moment that I wouldn't change anything about. That sold me on like, I want to be helping the First Order for the rest of this whole experience. So that initial interaction and how that carried through the whole experience was very cool. One of the only critiques I had, it was actually something Kevin Laibson brought up, but I was like, yeah, that wouldn't have been that hard to do. You never necessarily feel like you are on a spaceship, and an easy way to, well, you do visually, but Kevin brought up the notion that like when you go to hyperspace, when there's like blasters hitting the ship or something like that, like if you just had like subwoofers, like some kind of haptic or something to just kind of make the place vibrate a little bit, that would have been a pretty low cost way to just give you a little bit more of a sense of like, oh my God, crazy things are happening. And as soon as he mentioned that, I became very aware of like just how still everything was, even when the whole ship should have been shaking.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I thought we were talking about lowlights, but we're talking about criticism. Oh boy, I think we definitely have a lot of things to talk about there. But just pointing it out.
Okay,
we don't have to go there.
Let's get back to that. I think.
Oh, you want to hear it? Like additional improvements that I think.
Like I got one question, and then we can get there. All right.
We don't have to.
No, I think folks would love to hear more about, like, just we'll get there. All right. Okay. The question I think that's on a lot of people's minds, it's certainly on my mind, given all the feedback, was it worth it?
Haha. All right. Should I go first?
Yeah.
All right. So it's a really complicated question. So is it worth it? Probably not. Is it worth $7,500 for 5 people to go through it? Probably not, because that's going through a typical definition of value, which is you compare it to something else that you would do. So what's the opportunity cost of $7,500? Probably a really nice vacation in the Cayman Islands somewhere. Does it compare to that? Probably not. But I think many other podcasts say this, like, if you quantify value that way, it's never gonna be worth it. But if you quantify it in a sense where, like, does it allow you to fulfill an escapist fantasy of being in the Star Wars universe, then that's kind of priceless, right? That's kind of like, there are many people who pay a lot of money for that. Now, the experience we went through, it was absolutely like, I can see why it costs that much. So it's not like they're trying to milk you for money. Like, it literally costs that much to make it run. So I don't fault it for costing that much. I think there's a whole other conversation we can definitely have about the unit economics of whether or not this is actually a revenue, revenue positive business that for a variety of reasons I can see why it's not, right? Like, it's a very expensive thing to run, and only a very small niche group of people want to go for it. And I think therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Alex, thoughts?
Well put, David. So for me, absolutely, it was worth it. I was not looking for a little Star Wars escapist fantasy. That isn't something I've been dreaming about since I was a kid. Again, I always liked Star Wars. It was never like my favorite thing in the world. Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings, like, maybe this is something that I would actually pay just to pretend that I'm in that world for a little while. Why it was worth it for me is because there are things that I take from this that are going to affect my work and my company's work. I've talked a lot to other people, I don't think ever on this podcast, but about how transformative my time studying abroad in London was in 2008, because I saw so many theater pieces that elevated the art form of theater to me from something that is frivolous and a fun little side thing that's ultimately kind of forgettable to something that can, like, shake the core values of a person, because that happened to me quite a few times over that one semester. And I realized the power that theater could have. This experience was up there with that level of catharsis and understanding the power of theater, not proscenium theater with a fourth wall, not even immersive theater like I've experienced it before with Immersive Gatsby or Sleep No More or the Highwaymen or any of the other immersive experiences I've seen that typically just last a couple hours. But this was a more complete kind of immersive theater and immersion than anything I've ever seen before, including VR, including anything else. And
by far.
And what I want to take from this is lessons that can go into other work, because yes, this something at this scale, something over this length of time, that's something that does require a huge budget and the ambition of, you know, a company like Disney. But there are so many little lessons here in how an audience and an actor engage, and how you make people feel welcomed and cared for and special, that I think will make its way into our virtual reality experiences, into how we design all sorts of different work. That the thing I'm kind of coming to here is, like, I think a show like this kind of teaches you how to be a better person. And we talked to one of the creators who talked about how something like this, ultimately immersive theater at this level of quality, can hopefully start to cure what we refer to as like the epidemic of loneliness in the world, because it just teaches you to care more. It teaches you to look at that person across from you who looks like they're having a bummer day and not just want to ignore them, but be kind of wondering, like, I wonder if there's anything I can do to help. That's kind of the ethos of all this. Everyone is listening. They're not just talking. And everyone is trying to find ways to make this a more enjoyable experience, not just for themselves, not just me, but for everyone around them.
Yeah, wow.
Matt, you nailed it, Alex. I just want to add, like, it makes me super sad that I don't think we'll ever see anything else like this. It takes a level of ambition and a level of budget to pull off what they did.
Yeah.
It's incredible what they've pulled off. And it just shits me that the economics just don't work out, right? Like it's, I don't know how they could pull off what they did, the magic that they pulled off, the mechanics that they used, the level of detail and design that they use without spending and costing this amount of money.
Yeah.
So it makes me sad that we won't see anything else like it for a long
Yeah,
time. But that said, all the lessons that we learn from it are going to inform so many more amazing experiences in the future. But just, I don't think there'll be anything like this.
Yeah, I want to kind of, and also because we're, you know, already running into a very long part 2 here, but I want us to kind of roll into some closing thoughts here. But if I can, I want to try and put my spin on what I've heard so far from you guys, having given this, you know, had this experience.
Yes. Well,
you know,
you, sir.
I think it's always fascinating to hear from other people's points of view the kinds of experiences that really capture them, right? And it's been clear from, you know, the very start that both of you were very much in. Obviously, you came into it with some level of investment, right? This was an exciting thing, and you know, from the start, you knew you were in for something special, right? But it seems that, like, this was the kind of experience where it doesn't matter what kind of person you were. Like, you were telling the story about the little girl. We were telling stories about, you know, caring and empathizing, all these other things. You can come into this with any expectation and walk out of it feeling as if you have, you know, gained not just like some, you know, story in your back pocket. You didn't just go see a movie or, you know, capture that little moment of, you know, living another life that I think a lot of folks look for when it comes to not just, you know, a story, but an immersive, you know, something that really captures you. This seems like it did that in spades, and it's really exciting to hear. And also just how clever it is, right? And just how many different little beats there are. How it sounded like everything was very much complete. And I actually kind of want to touch in on what you were just saying there, David, where you're saying, well, I don't know if we're going to experience something like this. And while obviously I hope that, you know, for my sake, selfishly, I hope something like this exists, or maybe they decide not to close it and revamp the script. So I haven't heard the whole thing, but in any case, I actually think what we saw here was really more or less a prototype of the sorts of things that, you know, we've been imagining in the world of, you know, I'm going to relate this back to immersive, you know, technology in general, right? Like, yes, of course, this was an in-person This was a very physical, very, kind of experience, right? And the question is like, with so much of what we do in, historically in like AR, VR, what people kind of think of in technology is so separate still from the kinds of experiences we're talking about here. The tangible, the food was great, people were there to care for me, right? Like, these are not things you hear about in technology, right? What excites me though is that I think there is somewhat of an agreement in the vision of where people want, that technology to go. I'm not going to be cliche and talk through all the, Ready Player One-esque examples, right? But I think there is an opportunity in the future for more people to experience this. And I think that's a great thing, right? Like, this, I actually think, is more or less a prototype for Disney and for a lot of other people who saw this as, we're going to go out, we're just going to build this thing. Everyone's going to call us crazy, and people did call them crazy, right? We're just going to build it and see who comes and see if it works, right? And I think in that sense, in the sense that, yes, we'll probably never get a chance to go back on that ship and experience the passion and the level of detail that you guys experienced. I do think actually this will be a prototype for what we will see and what will come out of it, which might not look the same, but hopefully, honestly, might be a little more accessible and maybe more affordable as a result, right?
It has to be.
That's the hope.
Exactly. Everything you said plus one, sir.
Yeah.
I have faith that the more amazing things will come out of this. It will not be this.
No.
But it will likely learn from this. Sorry, go ahead.
The goal is to normalize this. We want this to feel like not this crazy thing that someone needs to, save up 5 years of income in order to go see, but something that they might go do every Friday night with a group of their friends or to meet someone new or whatever. So to see this proliferate more, people have been talking with it's going to feel like this is a total tangent, but it's not. The Apple Vision Pro, and people are like, oh, hey, why does the Apple Vision Pro not do like all the crazy things you can do with spatial computing? Why is it starting by just having like 2D apps, up in space? And people talk about the conceptual ladder and this idea that you need to like gradually introduce new things to people so they feel comfortable with it. And I've been talking to people about that sort of thing for a long time with, a VR theater experience. And how do you take someone who understands what a sit down proscenium theater experience is and start to open them up to the possibilities of VR. Similarly here, this is an immersive theater experience that works very hard to make this feel comfortable. If you've never been on a cruise ship, don't know Star Wars that well, have never done immersive theater, and walks you through all this. Now, the more people become familiar and comfortable with something like this, the more, or the higher up that conceptual ladder we can start to be, and the more we can start to do things that are really pushing the envelope, and because it feels more normal. It's back to talking about like why films look so different now from how they did in the 1920s and the development of the cinematic language, and why apps have changed so much since the advent of the initial app store or websites, et cetera, et cetera. But the hope is that the children who have seen this, the designers who have seen this, the people like yourself and hopefully our listeners who are taking some little seeds of knowledge away from this, that little sparks are going to form that start to influence their work. And some of these elements start to permeate other art forms, other things we might call immersive theater, other immersive works of other kinds like VR and AR. And this all just starts to feel more normal. So we get more creative people creating more meaningful work that connects people, that gives people a sense of empathy, of love, of community, and hopefully it makes the world a better place. Gosh darn it.
Man, I love everything you just said, Alex. And I just want to expand by saying, like, look, this beautiful, ambitious, expensive thing we call the Galactic Starcruiser, it showed that entertainment is still rife for inventing.
Yeah.
It showed that we could sort of build new ways of entertaining people that could connect and emotionally affect you in still ways that I think many of us did not expect. And that is the hopeful message that I want to take away from this, which is like, people are going to learn how to do that in better and more amazing ways. because man, we still have so much more new media to invent.
Yeah.
100%.
This seems so unique, but yet I guess a bit of this says to me, like, man, this seems like only the start, right? Like, this was a small space. It was not many rooms, as you guys said. Yes, there were a lot of cast, there was a lot of moments, and there was a lot of work that went into this, right? But it seems like just the start. Like, there seems like so much more that you could do with this concept in such a in a much broader fashion, right? I mean, think about what Alex just said. Like, oh man, what would I pay to just be in Lord of the Rings for a day, right? Well, you can go to New Zealand. That's beside the point. But I I think this really is, to some extent, scratching the surface, right? I don't know. How did you guys feel?
Yeah, it's the start. It's the start of something
Yeah.
that I hope we'll all look back on as, like an early Eisenstein film or something like that. This is the beginning of montage or something like that, and we can point to this in the same way people talk about Sleep No More right now as a certain kind of ground zero, or at least benchmark along this continuum of new forms of narrative.
No.
Nodding and nodding. That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, we should wrap it up here because we have had a wonderful time speaking about this. Any closing final thoughts the two of you guys haven't taken this voyage in Batu and Florida and wherever else?
I'll just mention that we all had really rough times getting home, and it was still totally worth it. All of us were having like weird problems with
Yes.
delayed flights, things were getting canceled,
Gosh.
and yet I just sat there the whole time while all this nonsense was happening, saying it's okay, it's totally okay. I'm still processing this incredible journey I've been on, and I'm not bothered at all. So I think
It's
it speaks
crazy. Like,
volumes about the experience that it was that good.
yeah, we had crazy delayed flights. Like, I think some of us were on the tarmac. Like, I was on my plane on tarmac for like 3.5 hours. Like, it was a terrible, and we were delayed at least 6 hours each for our flights. But yet, yeah, it was still a blast. I'll do it all over again, even with the shitty planes. I do want to say one thing though. Like, I think I said it earlier. I want to say it again. I just cannot stress how awesome the blue shirts were. It's such that I think, we wrote an email to Disney at the very end of it, just sort of highlighting the names, and Disney actually replied with a phone call and left a voicemail just thanking us for that email. So I just want to say on this podcast, if you don't mind, but holy crap, Audra, man, we love your cocktail service. Audra is amazing. You are so cool. Stefan also, our cocktail server. Sam, our dinner server, was super amazing. He made everything so much funnier. All the food he brought out. Crystal, who also was the bartender at the lounge, she remembered all the drinks we loved. Molly, who remembered all our names as she guided to our rooms.
Bookended the beginning and the end of the experience.
Exactly, beginning to end. And this is just on top of all the fantastic performers who played Wraith, Lenka, Croy, and Sammy, and obviously all the people in masks as well. But it's just the people made it, man. It was such a good experience. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, if you've listened up to this point, and I hope you have, because I think this one gets better with age, make sure you like, make sure you comment. Let us know. Did you enjoy this? Do you want us to hey, look, if you want us to put up some merch so we can do more cool experiences, I mean, I'll get invited next time, and I'll leave these two out of it. But if you're interested, let us know in the comments, and maybe we can work something out. But I hope you enjoyed this, and Alex, I guess we'll see them on the next episode.
Yeah, coming up, we'll be recapping VR Toronto. We'll be talking about some really cool in-world AI, Unreal Engine stuff. And again, I just want to give a little call to action for anyone who has done the Starcruiser experience or is fascinated in everything we've just been describing, I am happy to share all my 3D models and, you know, certain photos and all that. If anyone wants to be part of a bit of a community project to try to create an archive of this experience, you know, maybe we can get some good 3D models of the entire Halcyon experience. The sad thing is that as far as we know, once that shuts down in September, it's not going to be able to be used for anything else because of some weird like tax burden kind of things. So being able to preserve this in some kind of way, I think would be quite nice. Certainly trying to capture the essence or the spirit of some of these characters would be quite cool. And even if it's just something that people want to look at from a 3D model perspective, even if we don't try to capture the experience itself, it's the kind of thing that I think will evoke a lot of exciting memories and ideas and inspiration for people. So, you know, this isn't something that like I'm actively pursuing at the moment, but I think if enough of us kind of say like, yeah, I'd like to spend some time modeling that Sabacc table in 3D or something like that, that would be kind of a cool group effort. So I'll put that out there to the world.
So long, farewell.
And thank you, David, for being our guest. Thanks to Alan for being our producer. Thanks to Vikas for giving us this wonderful studio to play in. And he is now on vacation. And we appreciate him setting up this, being here for part one, and then flying off to do his thing on a much-deserved break. So yes, thank you so much, everyone. And we will see you next time.
Thank you, gents, for having me on your show.